Most women think attraction comes from beauty, attention, or knowing exactly what to say. But there is something far quieter and far more powerful that many women completely overlook. Men don't just notice what a woman gives them. They notice what she doesn't need to give. And when you understand why, you will see attraction and your own feminine strength in an entirely different way. Stay until the end, because I will reveal the deeper principle behind this attraction and how understanding it can completely change the way you carry yourself without pretending to be someone you are not. There is a quiet strength that changes the way people experience you. It does not come from having the perfect face. It does not come from wearing expensive clothes. It does not come from speaking louder than everyone else. And it does not come from learning how to make someone chase you. It begins much deeper. It begins with the way you see yourself when nobody is watching. Many women spend years trying to understand what men want. They study how to become more attractive, more interesting, more desirable. They wonder what to text, when to reply, how much attention to give, how much attention to withhold. They analyze every message, every pause, every change in behavior. But there is a question that is much more important. What happens when you stop measuring your value by another person's response? That is where self-respect begins. A woman who needs constant approval slowly gives other people the power to determine how she feels about herself. If he calls, she feels important. If he becomes distant, she questions herself. If he compliments her, she feels beautiful. If he ignores her, she wonders what is wrong with her. Her emotional state becomes connected to someone else's behavior. And this is exhausting, because when your sense of worth depends on another person, you are never completely free. You may look confident on the outside, but inside, you are waiting for permission to feel valuable. Self-respect breaks that pattern. Self-respect says, I appreciate your attention, but I do not need it to know who I am. It says, I enjoy being loved, but I will not abandon myself to keep someone beside me. It says, I can care deeply about you without making you responsible for my identity. This is not coldness. This is not arrogance. This is not pretending that you do not care. It is the opposite. It is caring without losing yourself. There is a great difference between a woman who wants love and a woman who believes she must earn love by constantly proving herself. The first understands that love is something two people build. The second feels she must perform for it. She becomes endlessly available. She answers immediately even when she is busy. She accepts behavior that hurts her because she's afraid that setting a boundary will make someone leave. She keeps explaining herself to people who have already decided not to understand her. And slowly, without realizing it, she teaches people how little they need to give in order to keep her. This is where many relationships become unbalanced. When someone knows you will always tolerate disrespect, there is little reason for them to examine their behavior. But when you possess self-respect, your behavior communicates something without requiring a speech. You communicate through what you tolerate. You communicate through what you refuse. You communicate through where you place your time. You communicate through whether you remain when your dignity is repeatedly ignored. And people notice this, especially because genuine self-respect is difficult to fake for long. You can pretend to be mysterious. You can pretend not to care. You can deliberately delay messages. You can create artificial distance, but none of these things create inner strength. They are only strategies. And strategies eventually collapse when emotions become strong. True self-respect requires no performance. Imagine two women receiving the same disappointing message. One immediately begins to panic. What did I do? Should I explain? Saying, maybe I should apologize. Maybe I should send another message. Maybe he misunderstood me. Her mind begins running in circles. The second woman feels the disappointment too. She is human, she cares, she may even feel hurt, but she does not immediately abandon herself. She pauses, she breathes, she observes. She asks, what is actually happening here? Not, how can I make him behave differently? Not, how can I make him want me again? But, what does this behavior tell me? That small shift is powerful, because one woman reacts from fear of losing someone. The other responds from awareness of what she is experiencing. This is the difference between seeking approval and living with self-respect. And understand something important. Self-respect does not mean walking away from every imperfect person. Nobody is perfect. People make mistakes. People misunderstand each other. People have difficult days. Self-respect is not about demanding perfection. It is about recognizing patterns. One mistake can be discussed. A repeated pattern of disrespect must be understood. A healthy woman does not need to punish someone for crossing a boundary. She simply becomes clear about what she will participate in. That clarity is powerful. Because when you know what you stand for, you no longer need to constantly negotiate your worth. You stop saying, "Please choose me." You begin living as someone who also chooses. And this changes attraction in a very interesting way. A person who desperately needs to be chosen often becomes focused on pleasing. A person who knows how to choose becomes focused on compatibility. That difference can be felt. Think about the energy of someone who walks into a room desperately hoping everyone will like her. She watches every reaction. She adjusts every sentence. She laughs because others laugh. She agrees because she fears disagreement. She changes herself depending on who is standing in front of her. Now think about someone who enters the same room with inner peace. She is respectful. She listens. She smiles. She can disagree without becoming hostile. She does not need everyone to approve of her. She is comfortable being herself. Which person feels more grounded? This is not about gender. It is human psychology. We are naturally drawn toward people who appear internally stable because stability creates safety. And this is why self-respect can become attractive without ever being used as a technique. You are not respecting yourself so that a man becomes obsessed with you. You respect yourself because your life becomes better when you do. If attraction comes as a result, it is a consequence, not the purpose. This distinction matters. The moment you start using self-respect as another strategy to control someone's feelings, you are still seeking approval. You have simply changed the method. Real transformation happens when you no longer need the result. You say what you mean. You honor your commitments. You protect your time. You care for your body. You develop your mind. You maintain friendships. You pursue meaningful work. You enjoy your own company. You do not disappear into a relationship. And when someone enters your life, they add to an already existing world. They do not become the entire world. That is a completely different foundation for love. There is also another side to self-respect that many people overlook. It means respecting your own no. If you say you will not accept something but repeatedly accept it because you are afraid someone will leave, your boundary becomes only a sentence. A boundary without action is merely a request. You do not need to threaten. You do not need to lecture. You do not need to create drama. Sometimes the strongest response is simply changing your participation. This is where quiet strength appears. The woman who knows her value does not need to convince everyone of it. She demonstrates it through her choices. And there is something deeply peaceful about that. You stop chasing explanations from people who are unwilling to communicate. You stop begging for attention. You stop trying to prove that you deserve basic respect. You stop confusing emotional struggle with emotional depth. You begin asking better questions. Does this relationship bring peace or constant confusion? Can I be myself here? Can we communicate honestly? Do my needs matter? Do I respect the person I become around this person? That last question is especially powerful, because sometimes the problem is not simply who someone else is. The problem is who you become when you are afraid of losing them. If you become anxious, controlling, silent, desperate, or constantly suspicious, you must look inward, not to blame yourself, to understand yourself. Fear reveals where attachment has become stronger than awareness, and awareness gives you the opportunity to return to yourself. That is the deeper meaning of self-respect. It is not standing above others, it is standing firmly within yourself. And once a woman develops that inner foundation, something else begins to change. She no longer needs to chase attention because her life already contains meaning. She no longer needs constant reassurance because she has learned to reassure herself. She no longer needs to manipulate distance because she naturally has a life beyond the relationship. And this leads directly into something even deeper. Because self-respect protects your identity, but there is another force that protects your emotional freedom. That force is emotional independence. And when you understand the difference between needing someone and choosing someone, the entire experience of attraction begins to look different. 2. Why emotional independence creates magnetic presence. Emotional independence does not mean that you do not need anyone. Human beings need connection. We need friendship. We need affection. We need belonging. We need people with whom we can share our joys and our difficulties. Emotional independence means something more subtle. It means you can love someone without making them responsible for your inner stability. You can miss someone without falling apart. You can care about someone's opinion without allowing it to define you. You can experience rejection without turning rejection into a judgment about your entire identity. And perhaps most importantly, you can be alone without feeling that something is wrong with you. This is where many people become uncomfortable. They confuse loneliness with being alone, but they are not the same. Loneliness is the painful feeling that you are disconnected. Being alone is simply the physical experience of your own company. One can be surrounded by hundreds of people and still feel lonely. Another can sit quietly by herself and feel deeply connected to life. The difference is internal. A woman who is emotionally independent does not need another person to constantly regulate her emotions. If someone becomes distant, she does not immediately chase. If someone becomes interested, she does not immediately build an entire future in her imagination. If someone gives her attention, she enjoys it without making it her oxygen. If someone withdraws attention, she notices it without losing herself. There is an enormous amount of strength in this, because when you stop needing another person's behavior to determine your emotional state, you become much harder to manipulate. Someone cannot easily control you with silence if you are comfortable with silence. They cannot easily control you with withdrawal if you know how to stand on your own. They cannot easily control you with approval if you have learned to validate yourself. And this is one reason emotional independence can create a powerful presence. Not because it is a trick, because desperation has disappeared. Think about the difference between holding someone's hand because you want to and holding someone's hand because you are terrified they will leave. The physical action may look identical. The inner energy is completely different. One comes from choice, the other comes from fear. People often feel that difference without being able to explain it. This is why trying too hard to appear attractive can sometimes have the opposite effect. When you are constantly thinking, "How do I make him like me?" your attention leaves the present moment. You are no longer experiencing the person. You are managing their perception of you. You are performing, and performance creates tension. But when you are emotionally independent, you can actually listen. You can actually observe. You can enjoy conversation without secretly calculating what every word means. You can laugh naturally. You can disagree. You can say, "I don't know." You can say, "I don't agree." You can say, "I need time to think." You can say, "That doesn't work for me." You do not have to maintain an image. You are simply present, and presence is powerful. Many people are physically present but mentally somewhere else. They are thinking about the past. They are predicting the future. They are wondering whether someone likes them. They are comparing themselves to someone else. They are waiting for a message. Their body is here, but their mind is somewhere else. Emotional independence brings the mind back. It says, "I am here. I am breathing. I am listening. I do not need to control this moment. I can allow reality to reveal itself." Second, this is a form of strength that does not look aggressive. It looks calm, and calmness is often misunderstood. People think confidence must be loud, but real confidence can be extremely quiet. A mountain does not need to announce that it is strong. A tree does not need to explain why it stands. It simply remains rooted. The same is true of a person who has developed emotional independence. She does not need to prove that she is independent. Her life shows it. She has interests outside romance. She maintains meaningful relationships. She develops skills. She takes care of responsibilities. She has dreams. She has standards. She has moments of solitude. She knows what brings her peace. So when love arrives, she does not approach it with the question, What can this person give me? She can ask something more mature. What can we create together? That is a completely different relationship dynamic. Need creates pressure, choice creates freedom. When two people choose each other freely, there is room to breathe, and healthy love requires room to breathe. You cannot hold water in a closed fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. Relationships can be similar. The more you try to control another person's feelings, attention, time, and behavior, the more tension you create. Emotional independence teaches you another way. You communicate your needs, you express your feelings, you listen to the other person, then you allow them to make their choices. This is difficult because control often disguises itself as love. I just want to know where you are. I just want reassurance. I just need you to prove that you care. Sometimes these are genuine needs, but sometimes underneath them is fear. And fear asks for certainty that life cannot provide. No relationship can guarantee that someone will never change. No relationship can guarantee that someone will never leave. No relationship can guarantee that you will never experience pain. The attempt to eliminate all uncertainty can destroy the very intimacy you are trying to protect. Emotional independence accepts a difficult truth. Love always contains some uncertainty. You can love wisely without demanding absolute guarantees. You can trust while still maintaining awareness. You can open your heart while keeping your feet on the ground. This is maturity. And it is also why a woman with emotional independence often feels different from someone who is constantly seeking reassurance. She does not create unnecessary emotional storms. She does not need every silence to be filled. She does not interpret every small change as a catastrophe. She gives situations time to reveal themselves. That does not mean she ignores red flags. Quite the opposite, because when you are emotionally independent, you can see more clearly. Desperation makes people overlook reality. They see what they hope is true. Independence allows you to see what actually is true. You can say, I love this person, but this behavior is not healthy for me. I care about him, but I cannot make his choices for him. I want this relationship, but I will not destroy myself to keep it. That is strength. And notice how different this is from playing hard to get. Playing hard to get says, I will withdraw so you chase me. Emotional independence says, I will not abandon my life just because I want you. One is manipulation, the other is maturity. One is designed to create a reaction, the other is built on inner stability, and this distinction should remain in your mind. Never turn your healing into another dating strategy. Never become independent merely to become more desirable. Become independent because your peace is worth protecting. If someone is attracted to that peace, beautiful. If someone is not, you still have your peace. That is the freedom. When you reach this point, attraction stops being something you desperately pursue. You begin to understand that the strongest presence often comes from a person who is not trying to create an impression. She is simply living in alignment with herself. She speaks when she has something meaningful to say. She remains silent when silence is wiser. She gives affection without begging for it in return. She walks away from disrespect without needing revenge. She accepts love without making it her identity. And she understands something many people learn only after years of emotional struggle. You cannot control whether someone chooses you, but you can control whether you abandon yourself while waiting to be chosen. That realization changes everything. Because when you stop chasing approval, you begin developing presence. When you stop fearing solitude, you begin developing freedom. When you stop trying to control another person's feelings, you begin understanding your own. And when you become comfortable within yourself, something remarkable happens. You no longer enter relationships asking, how can I make this person stay? You enter asking, can we meet each other here with honesty, respect, freedom, and peace? That is where attraction becomes something deeper than appearance. It becomes recognition. One person recognizes another person who is not desperately searching for completion. Two complete human beings meet. not because they need each other to survive, but because they genuinely value what they can share. And once you understand this, you are ready to see the next layer. Because self-respect tells you what you will no longer sacrifice, and emotional independence teaches you how to remain yourself while loving deeply. But there is another subtle force that determines whether a connection becomes meaningful or merely becomes a game of attention. It is the difference between being desired for your availability and being valued for your presence. The difference between attention and genuine connection. There's something many people confuse with attraction. Attention. Someone sends you messages all day. They react to your pictures. They compliment your appearance. They ask where you are. They tell you that you are beautiful. They make you feel noticed. And because being noticed feels good, the mind quickly creates a story. Maybe he really likes me. Maybe this is different. Maybe I have finally found someone who sees my value. But attention and connection are not the same thing. Attention says, I notice you. Connection says, I understand you. Attention can happen in seconds. Connection takes time. Attention can be given to many people. Genuine connection requires presence, honesty, consistency, and emotional depth. This distinction is important because a woman who understands it becomes much harder to impress with empty behavior. She stops asking only, does he want me? She starts asking a more intelligent question. What does he actually value about me? There is a difference between someone wanting access to you and someone wanting to understand you. A person can desire your attention without caring about your inner world. They may love how you look, but never ask what you think. They may enjoy your company, but never become curious about your dreams. They may want your affection, but have no interest in your boundaries. They may want your body, but have little respect for your mind. And if you confuse attention with connection, you may give emotional access to someone who has never earned it. This is why wisdom requires patience. Not every spark deserves a fire. Sometimes what feels powerful in the beginning is simply novelty. Two people meet, there is chemistry, there are long conversations, there is excitement, messages arrive late at night, everything feels intense. The mind begins filling in the missing pieces. But intensity is not always intimacy. Sometimes intensity is simply uncertainty mixed with desire. Real connection reveals itself through consistency. How does this person behave when there is nothing to gain? How do they behave when you disagree? How do they respond when you say no? How do they treat people who cannot offer them anything? How do they respond when you are having a difficult day? How do they behave when the excitement becomes ordinary life? These moments reveal much more than compliments. Because anyone can perform during the beginning, character becomes visible when there is no audience. This is why a wise woman does not rush to give someone the deepest parts of herself simply because they showed interest. She allows time to speak. Time is one of the greatest truth detectors. You do not have to interrogate someone to discover who they are. Observe, listen, notice patterns. A person will eventually reveal their values through repeated behavior. If someone says, I respect you, observe what happens when you disagree. If someone says, I care about you, observe what happens when you need patience. If someone says, I want something serious, observe whether their actions contain seriousness. Words are important, but patterns are louder. This does not mean you should become suspicious of everyone. Suspicion is not wisdom. Wisdom is observation without paranoia. You do not need to assume someone has bad intentions. You simply do not assume good intentions are proven by words alone. This gives you peace. You allow people to reveal themselves naturally, and this is where a woman becomes much more grounded. She does not need to chase clarity. She allows behavior to create clarity. Imagine a man becomes extremely attentive whenever he wants something from you. When he needs your attention, he becomes affectionate. When you give him what he wants, he disappears. Then, when he wants attention again, he returns. A woman who is addicted to attention may focus on the beautiful moments. She remembers the compliments. She remembers the chemistry. She remembers how special he made her feel. A woman who understands connection looks at the entire pattern. She asks, is there consistency? Is there mutual effort? Is there respect? Is there emotional responsibility? That is a much stronger form of intelligence, because attraction can make you focus on what you want to see. Wisdom teaches you to see what is actually there. And this brings us to another important principle. Do not confuse being desired with being valued. Someone can desire you intensely and still not know how to value you. Desire says, I want you. Value says, I respect you. Desire can be immediate. Value must be demonstrated. Desire can be physical. Value includes emotional, intellectual, and human respect. A woman who understands this stops using male attention as proof of her worth. She can receive a compliment and simply say, thank you. She does not build her identity around it. She can enjoy someone's interest without immediately handing over her emotional center. She can be flattered without becoming attached. That is emotional maturity. There is another reason this matters. When you are constantly seeking attention, you become vulnerable to intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes someone gives you a great deal of affection, then they disappear, then they return, then they become distant again. The uncertainty can make the connection feel stronger than it actually is. Your mind starts waiting for the next moment of affection. And because the reward is unpredictable, you may become even more emotionally invested. This can feel like passion, but sometimes it is simply a cycle of anticipation and relief. Real connection feels different. It does not mean there are never difficult moments. Of course there are, but there is an underlying sense of safety. You do not constantly wonder where you stand. You are not forced to decode every message. You are not spending your nights analyzing a 3-word reply. There is communication, there is mutual effort, there is room to breathe. This is why a woman should never measure the depth of a man's attraction by the intensity of his pursuit alone. A man can pursue because he is curious, because he is lonely, because he wants validation, because he enjoys the chase, because he wants physical intimacy, because he genuinely likes you. The behavior itself does not tell the entire story. What happens after the pursuit is what matters. Does he remain respectful? Does he remain consistent? Does he become more interested in your character? Does he care about your thoughts? Does he remember what matters to you? Does he respect your pace? Does he support your growth? Does he communicate when things become difficult? These are the questions that separate attention from connection. And there is something beautiful about not rushing to answer them. You do not need to force a relationship into existence. Let it unfold. If someone is genuinely interested, time will not destroy genuine interest. Time will reveal it. This is why patience is not passivity. Patience is observation. It is the ability to remain present without forcing an outcome. You do not need to chase someone into choosing you. You do not need to perform a personality that is not yours. You do not need to become endlessly available. You simply remain authentic and observe whether the other person meets you with the same sincerity. This also changes how you think about rejection. If someone loses interest, it does not automatically mean you were not attractive enough. Sometimes people are simply incompatible. Sometimes their priorities are different. Sometimes they are not emotionally ready. Sometimes they want something you do not want. Sometimes two good people are simply not good for each other. Rejection can hurt, but it does not have to become humiliation. You can say, this person did not choose me, and then say, that does not mean I am not worthy of being chosen. Those are two completely different statements. One describes reality, the other attacks identity. A wise woman does not turn every disappointment into a judgment against herself. She learns, she observes, she grows, and she continues. This is what makes her presence increasingly powerful. She does not need everyone to stay. She needs the right people to be capable of meeting her with honesty. And that brings us naturally to something even deeper. Because once a woman stops being impressed by attention alone, she begins noticing what exists beneath words. She begins reading behavior. She begins hearing what is not being said. And this is where attraction enters a much more subtle territory. Because a man's deepest reaction to a woman is not always revealed through his words. Sometimes his behavior is telling you the truth long before his mouth does. 4. What men perceive beneath a woman's words. Human beings communicate with much more than language. We communicate through posture, through tone, through facial expression, through timing, through emotional reactions, through what we tolerate, through what we avoid, and perhaps most importantly, through the relationship we have with ourselves. A woman may say, "I am confident." But confidence is not only something you say, it is something people experience through you. A woman may say, "I don't care what people think." But if every decision changes depending on how others react, people will notice the contradiction. A woman may say, "I have standards." But if she repeatedly accepts behavior that violates those standards, people eventually learn that her words and actions are different. This is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming aligned. When your words, choices, and inner values point in the same direction, you develop what we might call congruence. There is no performance, there is less tension. You do not need to remember which version of yourself you showed someone yesterday. You are simply yourself, and this is something people can feel. Men are not reading women's minds. They are not magical observers who automatically understand every hidden emotion. But people are often sensitive to emotional signals. They notice whether someone is relaxed or desperate. They notice whether affection feels natural or forced. They notice whether someone seems comfortable with herself. They notice whether a woman is enjoying the interaction or constantly evaluating how she is being perceived. This is why trying to control every impression can actually make you less attractive. The more you think, "How am I coming across?" the less present you become. You are watching yourself instead of experiencing the moment. Imagine sitting across from someone you genuinely like. Instead of listening to their story, your mind is running. Was that answer good? Did he like my joke? Should I smile more? Should I look away? Did I talk too much? Should I pretend to be busier? You are physically with him, but mentally you are watching yourself from the outside. This creates tension. Now imagine the opposite. You listen. You ask something because you are genuinely curious. You laugh when something is funny. You remain quiet when you have nothing to add. You disagree when you disagree. You share something meaningful when it feels appropriate. You are not performing, you are participating. That difference is powerful because genuine presence creates a feeling of ease, and ease is often more memorable than perfect words. This does not mean you should reveal everything immediately. Authenticity does not mean emotional exposure without boundaries. You can be genuine and private. You can be honest and still have mystery. You can be warm without telling someone your entire life story on the first meeting. There is wisdom in allowing intimacy to develop gradually. Trust should have layers. Not everyone deserves immediate access to your deepest wounds, dreams, fears, and vulnerabilities. This is not emotional unavailability, it is discernment. Think of a house. You may welcome someone through the front door. That does not mean you immediately hand them every key. Trust works the same way. People earn deeper access through consistent behavior. This is especially important because some people are very skilled at saying exactly what another person wants to hear. They can create instant closeness. They can mirror your interests. They can say, "I have never felt this way before." But words without time are difficult to evaluate. So do not rush. Let reality test the promise. One of the strongest qualities a woman can develop is the ability to remain warm without becoming easily influenced. She can listen without surrendering her judgment. She can receive affection without becoming dependent on it. She can admire a man without placing him above herself. She can be feminine, gentle, playful, passionate, intelligent, ambitious, or quiet without turning any of these qualities into a performance designed to win approval. This is where inner security becomes visible. And inner security has a particular effect. It creates room for another person to approach you without feeling that they must constantly rescue your emotional state. A healthy relationship is not one person constantly regulating the other. It is two people learning to regulate themselves while supporting one another. That distinction is enormous. If every disagreement becomes a crisis, the relationship becomes exhausting. If every delayed message becomes evidence of betrayal, there is no peace. If every difference of opinion becomes a threat to the relationship, honesty disappears. But when two people can tolerate discomfort, they can communicate. They can say, "I did not like that. I understand your point, but I see it differently. I need some time. I am hurt. I want to talk about this." These statements are simple, but they require strength. And strength is not always visible in dramatic moments. Sometimes strength is simply not reacting immediately. A man may say something that triggers you. The instinct is to respond sharply, but you pause. You observe the emotion. You do not suppress it. You simply refuse to become controlled by it. That pause can change everything, because emotional control is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to experience emotion without allowing it to choose your behavior for you. This is deeply attractive, not because it is a technique, but because it creates emotional stability. People feel safer around someone who can experience strong emotions without creating unnecessary destruction. And there is another subtle quality men may notice. A woman who does not constantly need to prove her desirability. She does not enter every room asking, "Am I the most beautiful woman here?" She does not need every man to notice her. She can appreciate her beauty without worshipping it. She can take care of herself without making appearance her entire identity. Because she understands that beauty attracts attention, but character determines what remains after attention fades. This is why your inner world matters, your curiosity matters, your discipline matters, your humor matters, your compassion matters, your ability to listen matters, your ability to say no matters, your ability to recover from disappointment matters. These qualities become part of your presence, and presence is much deeper than appearance. A beautiful face may attract someone's eyes, but a peaceful presence can make someone want to stay. There is also something men can perceive when a woman has a life of her own. She does not disappear into romance. She still has her passions, her friendships, her goals, her responsibilities, her quiet mornings, her personal growth. Her world does not collapse when someone enters it. This does not mean she loves less. It means she loves without abandoning herself. And there is a beautiful paradox here. The more securely you belong to yourself, the more freely you can belong with another person. Because you are not asking them to complete you, you are inviting them to share life with you. That changes the emotional atmosphere. There is less pressure, less performance, less fear, more curiosity, more playfulness, more honesty, more room for genuine connection. And perhaps this is the part that many people misunderstand about attraction. The goal is not to become irresistible to everyone. That would be a shallow goal. The deeper goal is to become so deeply rooted in yourself that you stop needing universal approval. Then you can recognize the difference between someone who is attracted to an image of you and someone who appreciates the person underneath it. One person is attracted to what you provide. Another is curious about who you are. One wants access. Another wants connection. One wants control. Another wants partnership. One wants the fantasy. Another is willing to understand the reality. And reality is where love lives. Not in the perfect version of you, not in constant excitement, not in endless compliments, but in the ordinary moments when two people continue to respect one another. This is why you should never build your entire identity around being desirable. Become deeply alive instead. Read, learn, move, create, think, rest, laugh, build friendships, develop your talents, protect your peace, know yourself. Then when someone enters your life, they meet a woman who is already connected to her own existence. She does not need to say, "Look how valuable I am." Her life quietly communicates it, and perhaps the most powerful thing she can communicate is not through any sentence at all. It is through the way she responds when someone tries to cross a boundary, the way she responds when someone withdraws attention, the way she responds when someone disagrees with her, the way she responds when someone does not choose her. That is when the deeper truth becomes visible. Because anyone can appear confident when everything is going their way. The real test comes when reality refuses to follow your wishes. Can you remain kind without becoming weak? Can you remain firm without becoming cruel? Can you love without losing yourself? Can you walk away without needing revenge? Can you stay without betraying your values? These questions reveal character. And character is what remains when attraction stops being new. So do not spend your life asking how to make someone more attracted to you. Ask a deeper question. Who am I becoming while I am trying to be loved? Because the answer to that question determines everything. And once you understand that, you are ready for the next layer of attraction. The part that many people mistake for manipulation, when in reality, it is simply the quiet power of having boundaries, space, and a life that does not revolve around another person's attention. That is where mystery begins. Not through games, but through the parts of yourself you wisely choose to keep sacred.